Joining me right now, GOP political strategist, co-founder of MustReadTexas.com, Matt Mackowiak. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Hey, Chad. Good morning. I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing well. Thanks for coming on today. Appreciate it as always. Let's talk about the two conventions. Hillary Clinton, I think, according to a CBS poll, having a 7-point bounce or maybe a 4-point bounce, depending on how you look at it. She leads by 7 points, according to CBS in their poll today. You saw both conventions. As far as the impact that both conventions will have on Republicans, on Democrats, on this race, how do you compare the two?
Well, I attended, obviously, the convention in Cleveland, and it was, very disjointed and disorganized. Trump kind of saved it with a fairly strong performance on Thursday night with his own speech. But, then I watched almost the entire Democratic convention in Philly, and I mean, that was a Hollywood production. I mean, you just have to kind of step back and say, these people know what they're doing. They can marshal their party's biggest stars. They can spread them out on 4 nights, make sure they get solid ratings. They can, appeal to patriotism and faith. And, the best in all of us. I mean, I hate to admit it. There were parts of the convention I didn't agree with, obviously. And there were some disunity there as well. But to me, I think that the real difference is, Trump's convention was focused on selling Trump. And it was very much sort of focused on deepening the narrow support he has now. Whereas I think Hillary's convention was more about broadening her appeal. They weren't really trying to appeal to the far left at that convention. Not solely. I mean, they were really focused on moderate voters, independents, Republicans. That's why they had Republican speakers. And so you look at these bounces. I mean, we haven't seen all the polling in yet. I think we'll start seeing that probably tomorrow. But my guess is that she's going to get a bigger bounce out of her convention than Trump got out of his. And that's because they just had a much more effective convention that broadened her appeal, that sort of rounded out the edges of her candidacy. And I think their party's probably even more unified than ours is right now, and that's a real problem.
Let's go to some controversy that happened because of the Democratic convention, and that was the father and mother, and the father who spoke about their son who was a captain, I believe. He had been killed in Iraq, 12 years ago. He spoke. He spoke out a little bit against Donald Trump. Had a copy of the pocket Constitution with him. Trump went after the family a little bit afterwards, and has received really a lot of backlash from Republicans and Republican leaders. Is Trump far out of line here, or is this being blown up by the media?
Well, I mean, I just personally, Chad, I took tremendous offense at how he handled that. You have to put, Gold Star families in a category entirely by themselves. Look, was this family being, to some extent, manipulated by the Democratic Party? Yes, there's no question. I'm sure they had a big influence on, encouraging them to attack Trump and then set up media interviews. But think about it this way. If Trump had issued a 2-sentence statement on Thursday or Friday after that speech had occurred and said, I deeply respect the sacrifice made by the Khan family, and I wish them the best going into the future, period. If that had been the entirety of the statement, this thing would be over.
Yeah.
Okay? But it's yet another example of how Trump cannot rise to the occasion. It's like it doesn't matter who attacks him. He has to attack back. He has to have the last word. He has to invalidate whatever criticism comes at him. And, did they find a unique example? Did they have to go back all the way to 2004 to find an example that fit in this circumstance? Yes. But I think there's a reasonable argument to make here regarding the Constitution. The Constitution does not allow a religious test for citizenship. or for even coming to the United States of America. And honestly, given what Trump had said earlier in the campaign about a ban on Muslims entering the U.S., that would have been unconstitutional. Now, he's stepped back from that and talked about it being more of a geographic ban based on countries that have been taken over by terrorism, which I think makes a lot more sense.
Right.
But look, he has made this immeasurably worse, using a dog whistle about, well, why didn't the wife speak? Well, the wife didn't speak because she was overtaken by emotion.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't matter anyway. What if she'd been the only one who did speak and the husband didn't speak? Would that matter? Of course it wouldn't. So to me, I just, some of these things are just bigger than politics. They come down to character, the character of the nation. And we have a candidate, we have a nominee that cannot control himself. He cannot rise to the occasion. And that just deeply, deeply bothers me. And look, I care about, not electing Hillary Clinton. I care about the Supreme Court and all these issues. But to me, that was such an outrage. I couldn't even really fully comprehend it.
Visiting with Matt Mackowiak, GOP political strategist, co-founder, mustreadtexas.com. There are still stories, and I was on vacation last week. Coming back into this week, there are still stories about Ted Cruz, and Ted Cruz not endorsing Donald Trump and the fallout from that. What do you think? We've already seen some donors who are obviously upset at Ted Cruz. Senator Cornyn, he didn't really have a huge slap against Cruz, but he said it was wrong, I think. What do you think will be the backlash immediately and then into the future for Ted Cruz? Is he in trouble going into 2018, in your opinion?
No, I don't think so. This looks like the biggest story in the world right now. After November, it will almost certainly not matter at all. I think, if Trump wins at all, it doesn't matter. If Trump loses by a decent margin, it doesn't matter. If Trump loses by a narrow margin, 1 or 2 points, and he and his supporters can effectively blame Cruz for preventing him from getting elected and helping Hillary, I think he may have a problem. But, it's funny. After the last week, in a way, I saw even Jennifer Rubin of the Washington Post, who I don't agree with on many things, said, boy, Cruz is looking good now, to me, I just think he was in an impossible situation. And so from my standpoint, you have to blame the people that were surrounding him. I told someone it's like sending somebody into an Alabama sports bar wearing an Auburn shirt, and then wondering why there was, a fist fight. At the end of the day, he did finish second. He had 600 delegates. He wanted to give a Reagan 1976 style convention speech. But in the current environment, you just can't do that. Trump's campaign controlled the program, the lighting, the podium, the floor. They had all the advantages. Plus, they had the text of the speech 2 hours before. Yeah. So they could see the vote your conscience line. And they were prepared. They were ready to start an uprising on the floor. And so he went in there without any, sort of strategic advantages. And he was giving a great speech through the first 2/3 of it. But it was ultimately destined to fail in the hall. And because it failed in the hall, it failed on television. Now, again, was it a principled stand? Yes, absolutely. He did what he thought was right. And that's a tough thing to do, particularly when you're getting booed by thousands of people at a big moment. You have to give him credit for that. To me, I just think it might have been better had he not given the speech at all. He could have gone to Cleveland, done things on the sidelines. He can withhold his endorsement. He's in a very unique position to do that, given the personal attacks Trump made against Heidi, his wife, and his father, Raphael, which were beyond the pale. So, again, I think it was a very difficult circumstance. I understand why he wanted to give the speech. It was kind of destined to fail given the dynamic, and it reminds me of the line that Gene Hackman says to Will Smith in Enemy of the State. You're either incredibly smart or incredibly stupid. It looked incredibly stupid that night. It may turn out to be incredibly smart.
Visiting with Matt Mackowiak. Matt, before I let you go, we're 98 days away from the election, so I'll be asking you just every now and then your prediction. If you had to make a bet right now, who do you think wins this election?
Yeah, I just think Hillary wins. I was looking at the electoral map and polling in each of those potential battleground states. The problem that Trump has is he has a very, very narrow path to victory. There was a story in the New York Times a couple days ago about Trump. If Trump holds all the Romney states and he wins Ohio, Florida, and Pennsylvania, he gets 273 electoral votes. Yes, that is his path. We haven't won Pennsylvania in over 20 years. Florida is going to be very difficult with all the Hispanic voters, and Ohio is going to be very, very close. I just think at the end of the day, Hillary has a lot of paths to 270 electoral votes, and Trump only really has one. It's an unpredictable election. It's going to depend a lot on the debates. We'll see how Trump, performs over time. But right now, I have pretty low confidence he's going to win the election.
Matt Mackowiak, as always, appreciate your time, and we'll visit with you in the future.
Sounds good. Take
All
care.
right.
Have a great week.
Thanks, Matt. That's Matt Mackowiak, GOP political strategist, not painting a beautiful picture there for Republicans.